Each weekend for the last several months, I've been a little preoccupied with the weather. As you're keenly aware, we've been meeting outside, and because of that, the weather has never had such a dramatic impact on my day-to-day life until now. But checking the weather every few minutes doesn't change anything. It doesn't make Sunday sunshine more likely, nor does it make rain less likely. You can't change the weather. Tonight we're going to be talking about the mission of the church, but we're going to do that by starting in a bit of a strange place. Tonight we're going to be studying the book of Ecclesiastes. The book of Ecclesiastes is sort of famous for two main things. First is this passage from chapter 3. There's a season for everything, a time for every matter under the heavens. A time for giving birth and a time for dying, a time for planting and a time for uprooting what was planted, a time for killing and a time for healing, a time for tearing down and a time for building up, etc. You kind of get the point. Secondly, it's the oft-repeated phrase found at the very beginning of the book. Ecclesiastes 1:2 says, "Perfectly pointless," says the teacher. Perfectly pointless. Everything is pointless. Which is depressing, to say the least. What reading Ecclesiastes is it's like reading someone else's journal as they were going through a very hard time. The picture we get of the author of Ecclesiastes, who calls himself the teacher and refers to himself in the third person, is someone who is struggling with a lack of control. No matter what he does, no matter how he acts, or how smart he is, or how hard he works, he lacks control. And so that puts a time for this and a time for that passage in a little bit of context. The teacher is experiencing these seasons that he can't control and he can't change. It's pretty easy to be empathetic with this guy. How many times have we in our own lives had these grand plans get pushed aside or worked extremely hard only for it to not work out? Sometimes our environment and our circumstances are like the weather. They affect us, but we just don't have control over them. You can't change the weather. So Ecclesiastes is often remembered for those rather depressing passages, but the reason I actually bring it up is because of the very end of the book. Chapter 12, verses 13 and 14 say, "So this is the end of the matter. All has been heard. Worship God and keep God's commandments, because this is what everyone must do. God will definitely bring every deed to judgment, including everything hidden, whether good or bad." You can't change the weather. You can't change or control so many things about your life and environment, but you can change the way you respond to the things you can't change. The teacher's point in writing Ecclesiastes is that trying to change things that are out of control is pointless. Instead, we should live out God's commandments and worship God. We should listen to wisdom and teaching. So in the midst of so many things we can't change, we must turn to the ultimate source of wisdom for guidance, Jesus. Jesus comes as a model to us of how to live in a world outside of our control. Jesus forfeits all control and becomes fully human. He lives in the world just like us. And he told us exactly what to do in response to any weather. Go, get out of your comfort zone, love others as yourself, make disciples, and transform the world. I think I sometimes struggle with being unable to control the weather, not because it's rainy, but because it's clear. When the problems of the world are not so obvious, when my life seems steady and calm, it's hard to find where to direct my love. It's a sunny day, perfect for a sleepy pup. But it's in those moments when this call is felt the deepest. You can't control the weather. Even though it might be sunny in your life, it might be raining in someone else's. The mission of God and the mission of the church are easy to live out in a crisis, but they're difficult to live out in good times. lives. So go, get out of your comfort zone, love others as yourself, make disciples, and transform the world.